Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the fascinating and honestly sometimes frustrating science behind returning childhood fears.
Your child beat the fear of the dark months ago, so why is the nightlight suddenly back? It's a scenario that catches almost every parent completely off guard, right? I mean, you spent weeks, maybe even months helping your 3 to 12-year-olds conquer a fear. You finally declared victory, and then, boom, out of nowhere, they're terrified all over again. If you're feeling totally stressed or defeated by this right now, seriously take a deep breath. We've got you.
Section 1. The nightlight is back. Okay, let's dive into this. Because when a fear comes back, our immediate parental instinct is to panic. We think, oh no, we're moving backward, or did I do something wrong? But, and this brilliantly illustrates the reality, a landmark study out of Maastricht University paints a totally different picture. Researcher Peter Muris and his team actually looked at 190 normal school kids ages 4 to 12. And get this, a massive 75.8% of them reported having fears. On top of that, over 80% had scary dreams and 67% were dealing with worries. So what does this actually tell us? It proves that recurrence is the norm. It's not an alarm bell going off. Having fears and watching those fears ebb and flow is literally just standard operating procedure for a growing kid's brain.
Section 2. The developmental fear clock.
Now, what's really interesting about the slide is how it maps out the predictable shift in a child's fears as they grow. To understand why an old fear comes back, we first got to understand how fears evolve in the first place. Researcher Eleonora Gallone drew on a century of research to map out this timeline. In infancy, it's all about strangers and separation from caregivers. Fast forward to the preschool years, and those fears morph into things like animals, the dark, and imaginary stuff. You know, the classic monsters under the bed. Then, as kids hit middle childhood, their cognitive abilities grow, and their fears get way more grounded in real-world dangers. We're talking bodily harm, what other kids think of them, or bombing a test. The fears actually mature right alongside the child's brain.
Section 3. Brains under load.
So human development, it's definitely not a straight line moving perfectly forward all the time. What actually happens when a developing brain encounters stress? Well, think of your child's brain as having a fixed amount of emotional bandwidth. When they're stressed, those resources get super taxed. And I don't just mean negative stress, like family conflict. We're talking totally normal stuff. Catching a cold, just being exhausted, moving to a new house, or getting a new baby brother or sister. Under the heavy weight of those normative stressors, the brain does something pretty brilliant. It temporarily reaches backward. It reverts to younger, much more familiar comfort patterns that it already knows how to handle. The earlier stage fear briefly pops back up simply because the child's whole system is under load. Let's look at one of the biggest transitions, bringing home a new sibling. Researcher Brenda Voling did this massive review of about 30 studies on family transitions when a new baby arrives. And she found that there's no universal crisis that every single kid experiences, but there are very real individual differences. A subset of completely healthy kids will suddenly start having sleep problems, they get super clingy, anxious, or show behavioral regression. Now, to a parent, this feels like a massive, alarming step backward, right? But it's actually just the brain operating exactly as it's designed to when processing a major life update. Once the dust settles, those old fears almost always settle right back down too.
So the crucial point is knowing how to spot the difference between a temporary bump in the road and a true clinical disorder. Gallone's research draws a super helpful line in the sand here. On one side, we have normal developmental fear. It's common, it fits their age, and, this is key, it's transient. It fades as the child adjusts. The whole fear came back experience, it almost always lives right here on the normal side. On the flip side is clinical anxiety, and that is defined as intense, persistent, and actively impairing your child's day-to-day life.
Section 4. The Parent Action Plan. Understanding all this psychology is great, but what do you actually do tonight when your kid refuses to sleep because they're absolutely convinced the closet monsters are back? Our goal here is to support them without accidentally locking that old fear right back into place. When we look at what not to do, and this is absolutely crucial, don't mock them, don't punish them, and definitely don't pull out the "you're too big for this" card. Shame literally kills resilience and just amplifies the fear. Oh, and equally important, try not to build elaborate avoidance routines. If they're suddenly scared of their bedroom, letting them sleep in your bed for 3 straight months accidentally teaches their brain, hey, my room actually is dangerous. Instead, what we want to do is remove the shame, normalize the fear, and gently pace their recovery.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a rock-solid, step-by-step strategy you can actually use. Step 1.
Normalize it out loud. Just say, hey, lots of kids feel scared of the dark again when life gets super busy. It passes. Step 2, look for the hidden trigger. What changed? A new sleep schedule? A big test? Treat that underlying stressor, not just the fear. Step 3, hold those routines steady. Predictable bedtimes and goodbyes give an anxious brain some much-needed solid footing. Step 4, comfort them without over-rescuing. Be their safe harbor, but don't let the fears shrink their world. And finally, step 5, pace tiny exposures. Rebuild that confidence in bite-sized pieces. Tell them, okay, I'm going to turn the light off for just 2 minutes, and I'll be sitting right here. Small, brave steps build confidence way faster than forcing them to face it all at once.
Section 5. When to seek help. Now, while we've established that these returning fears are overwhelmingly normal, we definitely want to give you a clear, safe boundary so you know when to take a closer look. You should absolutely chat with a pediatric professional if the fear triggers any of these red flags. Is the fear intensely severe? Does it last way beyond a few weeks and completely ignore the strategies we just talked about? Is it causing massive daily disruption, like they literally refuse to go to school or haven't slept alone in months? Or importantly, does the fear pop up right after a possible trauma? The tools we're discussing today are built for common developmental bumps, not clinical anxiety disorders. And honestly, if you're ever in doubt, there is absolutely zero harm in asking a professional for guidance. As we wrap up this explainer, remember that navigating these moments doesn't have to be a miserable, exhausting chore. Fear Me Not helps kids conquer fears through science-backed play, equipping you with the tools to make this whole process engaging and empowering. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. What if your child's returning fear isn't a step backward at all, but just their brain asking for a little extra scaffolding to take their next big leap forward?